This podcast contains potentially adult language, adult themes, definitely drinking, and possibly sexual context. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to Drinking with Authors, the podcast. I'm your host, Erica Lance. Co-hosting with me today is
Diane Piquet.
And our amazing, fantastic guest today is Donna Mercer. Woo!
Yay!
Let's talk about what we're drinking first. So I did something completely wildly inappropriate to a Starbucks drink. And so it's a London Fog latte, but I put like 2, maybe 4 shots of honey jack in it because basically it made like a weird hot toddy. No judgment, no judgment. Jen, what are you drinking today?
I have an iced caramel mocha with many colors.
Oh, many colors. Okay, Donna, what are you drinking?
I am actually drinking vodka. It's
Ooh,
pink.
look at that bottle.
I know, it's wonderful. It's like this way I can tell everybody I'm drinking pink lemonade and leave off the vodka part, but it's like it's mixed with some Sprite, so I completely won't be drunk in 5 minutes. It'll at least take me half an hour.
Okay, that's perfect. I love that. That'll be both of us, so it'll be fantastic. Okay.
Wonderful.
What?
I said wonderful.
Yes, twinsies. Okay, let's first, for the audience out there who may not know you, can you talk a little bit about what you write?
I write, with this pen name, I write mostly contemporary IR and some paranormal romance. Most of my story take place in my version of Colorado Springs, Colorado, because it's like everybody thinks when they think of Colorado, they think of Denver. You know, there's a whole big old state out here. So somehow my husband thinks I'm an alcoholic because all my books usually tend up having alcohol involved. So this is why this is perfect for me, because it's like I'm all about the drinks. And he doesn't understand it's actually based on real life because we met in a bar. Hello, we met over shots of tequila. So that's
That I think that's a perfect beginning to any romance story or, erotica story. Either way, it can go either way, but I'm sure it was wonderful.
yes.
Okay, so when did you start writing?
I actually started writing about 4 years ago.
Oh, new
Yeah.
writer.
Huh?
New writer.
Yes, new writer. And the reason why I actually started writing is because I have 2 children. And at the time, my son was 18. And I had just found out, because him and my husband got in an argument, I just found out that he had married his girlfriend 4 months prior and didn't tell us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I was highly pissed off and I had to get it out. So I just sat down and started writing. And that's how I ended up writing my first novel, Jericho.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and of course it had alcohol involved because it's a Club Envy novel.
I love it.
So that's how I ended up. And then I just kept writing from there.
Did you ever write when you were younger? Did you want to be a writer? Like, how do you get to, I love the genesis of this story.
Mhm.
I truly love the genesis of this story, but I'm trying to figure out how we got to that was the reaction that you had to this situation. Because I could think of like 5 I would have before that at least, but maybe 500. Some involve a police car anyway.
Actually, yeah, I did write when I was younger, and I was all about being creative and writing. And then one day, and this I kicked myself for this, but I had one of my teachers read a story I had written, and the response I got back from her was to stick to what I know.
Oh.
And so that really put me off of writing for the longest time. And then I met a friend in college. I made a friend in college who her goal was to be an editor. And so I started picking up writing here and there again. And then I took a creative writing class. And so I would do the assignments there, but I had never actually sat down to write a novel again since way back in junior high school. And so it's like I said, when I found out my son being married, it really, I just had to get the feeling out, and it just came out in a story. So yeah, and I had attempted NaNoWriMo several times, but I never actually finished it.
Me
So
too. I'm going to admit I attempt it almost every year, and I haven't quite nailed that yet. That's one of my bucket list items is to actually nail NaNoWriMo, like actually accomplish that goal. Because
yeah,
you go, yeah, I'm gonna do that, and then like the 26th rolls around, and I'm like,
But you get some writing done, and that's the point.
yeah, you do get some writing done. It's great. I'm just saying I would like to. Okay, she says this from the place that she's actually done this, so she can shut the hell up.
I
Like,
did not this year.
no. Okay, so it's interesting. So when I hate to hear that teachers say anything, like if you're out there and you're listening and you're a teacher, you guys got to encourage kids in the creative arts, even if they're not something you want to read or you don't think they're the greatest. Instead, give them some skill sets how to improve. Don't tell them to stick to what they know. I would like to find that teacher and jump punch them because that's terrible to do to anybody.
I'm pretty sure by now she's dead.
Let's. I don't want to
I
say
know that was
horrible,
horrible. But
yeah.
yeah, she had put me off writing for a long time, and I regret it. I feel that if I would have got back in it earlier, that I might have produced more. But I think um, it came along at the right time in my life when I needed it.
Well, it also sounds like your kiddos were a little bit older, so that's also different. Finding time, we have a lot of writer friends who have younger kids, and finding time with younger kids to write is also that's its own tackling thing that you have to do. So let's talk. Okay, so you've been writing for 4 years. How many books have you written?
Um, lots, no, but I have 13 out that are actually published.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is tremendous. That is amazing.
I
That's
know.
over a book a year.
I'm like, I look and it's like I'm like, I wrote that many. When did I write all these books?
How
But
many are unpublished?
huh?
How many have you written that are not published yet?
Um, I have 7 that are not published.
So you've written 20 books in 4 years.
Yes.
How much of your day is writing?
Honestly, in the past year, very minimal. Is very, very minimal because it's like in my alter ego is a nurse. And so when
Oh,
COVID hit, life changed a lot. And so I haven't done much writing. I'm just starting to get back into writing every day now. So I try to take an hour in the morning before I get up and get going for my nurse duty to write. And then I try to write at least a half an hour after I get off of work. So I get some writing time in there, but it all depends on the other job, because it's like the ups and downs and stuff. And I get phone calls at all hours of the night from my nursing coworkers asking crazy questions because it's like, lucky me. I took a job as an infection control nurse 4 days before they announced COVID hitting. So I'm like, wow.
wow, that is how do you even stage that? Like if you wrote that in a book, nobody would believe it. They'd go, there is no way that happened.
it, it it was it was a shock to my system because it's like I keep telling my boss, I don't even know what my job is. All I know is COVID. And she's like, that's your job.
Wow. Is it for it's I just have to ask this because the news, you can't trust the news with anything. It's talking more and more how it's lessening and lessening. Are you actually seeing that or it's not really changed recently?
Actually, it is lessening because I work in long-term care, and our biggest fear was that we were going to lose half of our residents to um, the corona. And so we worked diligently. I mean, there was times that we would put in 12 hours, go home, and there'd be emergency, and we'd turn around and be right back there to do another 12 hours. And so I think all of our hard work paid off. because overall we only lost 8 patients out of 88 to Rona.
That's actually, as bad as it sounds to say, that is a great statistics. That's amazing. That's very well done. And thank you for everything you've done, because you guys that were on the front lines of this, we can complain sitting in our houses being mad that we don't have enough toilet paper, but we weren't in the thick of it. So it sounds very first world problems when you're like, I can't wipe my butt. That's my biggest problem.
I know, and see, we would complain. We're complaining now. It's like, dude, we need a vacation. Why can't we catch the Rona? And it's like my coworker is like, because we were all stupid. We're vaccinated. It's like so we just can't win for losing.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So
do you think that you'll end up putting this into your writing at all? Like, would you write about a nurse?
I do write some medical types, medical things in my book. Like in my book, Sebastian, it's a Club Envy novel, but it takes place in a trauma center, a fictional trauma center, and my brother, this is the book my brother proofread for me, and he's like, I'm gonna disown you. And I'm like, why are you disowning me? He's like, because you invented a drug and you're dealing it in this book, and the FBI are coming for us, the DEA. I'm not losing my nursing license because you're over here writing about drugs and how to sell them and steal them from the hospital. I'm like, well, sorry.
It's fiction.
that's the best part about most of us who do writing. Like, I joke with my friends all the time. I'm like, when I get arrested, you need to go take my books down to the police center and show them that I'm a writer, because otherwise I'm going to jail for a really, really long time if they go through my search history and stuff like that. Because I write horror, so it's like, how does a body decompose in the sun? How long does it take? What happens exactly?
Yeah, and see, and the research, that's what's going to get us, because I was just researching, because before Corona had hit, I was plotting a story that is a sci-fi romance that takes place in the future on a generations ship, and it's has a virus comes through that sweeps in that they're trying to find the cure for. But in part of it, the ship is blown up, a section of it's blown up. And so I'm up here researching bombs, how to make bombs out of household ingredients. I'm like, oh, now I'm on a terrorist watch list.
So you're dealing drugs, and you're a terrorist. Wow. You know what? I'm not even sure how you top that. You should research, like I did, how long it takes for bodies to decompose in certain circumstances.
What do I plant in my garden that will
Compose a body? And you can just do the trifecta, and then they can just show up and go, we're not even sure what you did, but we know we need to talk to you. Oh my goodness. So do you do series, obviously, right? Do you write series?
Yes. I don't know how that happened. It just comes along, because it's like usually I have the idea for the first book, and something happens while I'm writing the first book that it's like, oh, I need to write this one afterwards. And it just keeps going. And so, yes, I do series.
No, that's awesome. When you sit down for that hour in the morning, how much writing do you get done?
I usually about 5,000 words.
in an hour?
Yes, because yes.
I'm packing up. This show's over. I'm done. Whatever.
Amazing.
Whatever. What the fuck ever.
I'm not saying that they're always usable words, but yeah.
It doesn't matter. I would like to put half of that down as even somewhat usable words.
Well, because it's like I can, talk faster than I write. So I use voice to text. And that's how I get it down. It's like, it's like, and then in the middle, and okay, because I use Dragon Speak, and that you can, like, in certain versions of Dragon Speak, you can make a recording. Like, say if I'm out in the middle of nowhere and I make ID hit me, I make a recording on my phone and then I upload it to Dragon Speak and it just takes what I recorded on my phone and puts it in words. And so I cheat.
Yeah, no, that if you can do that,
So many words.
it's been a long time since I tried this, but I got Dragon Naturally Speaking because I do talk a lot faster than I write and
Mhm.
a lot faster than I write. But I tried for 3 weeks to train it, and the amount of going back and having to correct stuff was driving me so crazy that I was like, nope, I can't do it. But then again, it's been years, so maybe the technology is much better now.
It's probably like captions. You still have to go through and fix it. Like when you caption a video or something, you have to go through and like fix all your.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you still have to fix it, but my text is pretty good. I do a lot of voice texting. Of course, my friends know when I'm voice texting because it makes up words and stuff like that.
Uh-huh. Well, and it's the same concept, it's like, when you voice text, if you are voice texting and it clears it up, it does get better. And I like it because, and then I had read a book on how to train your the dragon naturally speak, and that actually helped a lot because it says some of the settings that they naturally set up there you have to undo.
Oh, wow.
To make it better.
Well, because anybody listening who goes, I want to try this, what was the name of that book?
Oh, sure, make me look up something. Now you're gonna make me look.
What,
Is it How to Train Your Dragon? Because that's funny.
that would be amazing if it was How to Train Your Dragon. I would get very confused though, I think.
It'd be version 3, how to train. Well, no, there is 3 of them out, aren't there?
There's 4. There's a new one that just came out.
Really?
Yes, a new one. Something of clans. I don't know.
Something, yeah.
Yeah, there's something. Toothless. You gotta love Toothless. Everybody loves Toothless.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, I'll find it for you.
Okay. Let's continue on.
Okay.
So, that was the idea for your first book. Your son getting married for 4 months and not telling you. Is he still married? Did that work?
He's still married.
Okay, perfect. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, just wasn't sure if then you wrote the follow-up book called That Was a Really Poor Choice on Your Part. I don't think that would be the title, but that could be cool.
They actually work together. They're Dumb and Dumber, but they're dumb in their different ways. So they mesh.
Well,
So
that is wonderful. So where do you get the inspiration from your books? Do you have to have traumatic things happen in your life, or do you become inspired elsewhere now?
I become is inspired elsewhere. Sometimes it's just things that happen. Sometimes it's things I find on Facebook. Like,
I don't envy those novels.
oh, yeah. So yeah, that's how I wrote Studying Axel, is which is about a convict who starts a business called the Inappropriate Date Agency, and his job is to go and be an asshole. You hire.
Oh,
He goes to a family dinner as your date, and he's just a complete asshole, and you pay him for it. And I came across an ad on Facebook advertising exactly that, and I'm like, oh my god, I can write this. I can write this.
sometimes life is way stranger than fiction.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to think why you would want to hire somebody to be a horrible date.
So what
What
was
was
the reason in your book?
Yeah.
Because the female main character, her mom was pushing her to marry an appropriate guy because her mom's idol was June Cleaver.
Oh,
Every woman needed to be married and popping out kids and at home taking care of their husband, and she didn't want to do that. But her mom kept pushing her, and then their Thanksgiving dinner was coming up, and it was a family affair. And mom had invited a guy to be her date for Thanksgiving dinner, and she was like fed up. She didn't want to do it. So she hired Axel to come and be her date for dinner. So she brought a burly ex-con to dinner.
that is awesome and amazing. And then, of course, hilarity and romance ensued, as it should.
Do your books have happy endings?
I try to, yeah. I like a happy ending. It's like I'm a sucker for a happy ending. I can't deny it. It's like everybody should find love and live happily ever after.
Good
So
God, reading. Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah, well, she's with you, and so are most romance readers. Most romance readers want a happy ending, or at least happy for now, and get very pissed off when that's not the case.
that's me. I get pissed off. And oh, I hate cliffhangers.
Oh, really?
Yes, I hate cliffhanger. I'm like, I want to know now. I don't want to wait. Tell me. Don't make me come to your house and find you.
Where can I get the rest of this book or the next book immediately?
So, do you never write cliffhangers yourself? Then you write series.
Yeah, but I never write cliffhangers. No. No.
Wow.
Was there one in particular that you read where you were like, oh no?
Oh, I have read many books. Yeah. And luckily for this lady, she had all 3 parts out because I was coming for her. I'm like, because it's like when I start reading and it's a really good book, I'm like, what do you mean that she's waiting for him? No, there's no waiting. It needs to continue. Uh-oh, Amber Alert, there's kidnapping kids.
That's not good.
Yeah.
I don't know why we're looking at her phone. She's in Mountain Time. She's in Colorado.
Yeah.
Why the hell did we just do that? We're in Florida. Let's see if we get that Amber Alert. If we're getting it, there's a bigger problem there. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Well, it is interesting that you say that, because I think, I remember Jen has a series out that's a vampire romance series, and she had a lot of fun with book 2 because I made her Empire Strikes Back that ending. I was like, you need to cliffhanger this ending
So
so hard. And then she did what I call the Lord of the Rings ending, where she like cliffhangered it and then had another ending and then another ending, and I'm like, no, like it's one ending. Just stop.
as much as I can if I'm gonna do this.
So you're just gonna keep them on the hook. That's it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Empire Strikes Back endings for series, as long as the author continues to write. As long as the author continues to write, I'm good to go. If you pause, though, I'm like, what in the fuck are you doing? Like, you can't Empire Strikes Back me and then not put another book out and not put when the next book in the series is coming. If I know it's coming, I'm okay. If you like put a series like it, and that's where it gets a little interesting for me, which will lead to my next question before the break, is I always look to see what books are out from the authors. I have a very hard time with one book authors. I have a very hard time with one book authors because I don't know if that's just going to be it. Now, if it's a standalone, it's okay.
Mhm.
But if it has any sort of series potential, I'm like, I'm going to need you to have more than one book out, because I don't want to get invested and you have one book.
And see, and that's what a lot of my readers said. They're like, yeah, I'm already in this, so I need you to hurry up and write. And it's like, so when I didn't write this past year, I got some messages like, are you ever gonna finish or put out the next book? And so I had rushed to put out the next book and didn't like it and ended up pulling it from the shelf. And I'm like, no, I won't do it again.
Well, and I think, it's interesting that you say that. Well, we got to take a break. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back on your rushing and stuff, because it's an interesting standpoint from for an author. So we will be right back with Drinking with Authors.
Sample locally sourced, quality distilled spirits in the beautiful Columbia River Gorge. At Skunk Brothers Distillery, we're family owned, brewing small batch grain to bottle spirits, just like our grandfather did back in the Prohibition era. From handcrafted bourbons and moonshine to flavored blends and cordials infused with local fruit. Join us for a tasting tour and buy Skunk Brothers spirits straight from the source.
It's all in the family at Skunk Brothers Spirits, located in Stevenson, Washington.
Okay, now we're back. So, let's talk. Before the break, we were talking a little bit about that you wrote a book, you wrote it fast, you put it out, then you pulled it back, right?
Yes.
It's very interesting because I think, we get the opportunity to talk to a lot of self-published authors, and we've also talked to a lot of authors who've been in the business for a very long time. So they know their pace, they know their whatever. But it's interesting because so you rush to do this because the fans are going, hey, get this book done. We need this book right away, right?
Mhm.
What made you go, this is garbage, I'm pulling it. You know what I mean?
It was a feeling. It was an internal feeling that I had that I'm like, even though they're like, oh, it's okay. I'm like, I don't want it to be okay. I want it to be great. I want you to hee-haw your ass all the way through it and laugh like I do when I write them. And it's like when I was writing this, I wasn't getting that same feeling of laughter and fun that I got when I wrote the first one. And I'm like, nah, this is shit.
Did you have beta readers? Did you have anybody else read it before you were like, nope, I'm pulling it?
I do have beta readers and they're like, yeah, it's okay. But I'm like, I don't want okay.
They're like, cool. Well, you're publishing something. That's good. You put words on a paper. We're excited. There's a cover. Thanks for doing.
So
You
what do you
know, it's like, ah,
what do you do
no.
now that you've pulled? Like, are you just gonna revise it and then republish? Like, what's your plan?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna rewrite it completely. And
Oh, not salvageable, huh?
no, no, no. I wanted to go a different way than what it went. Because it's like when I read it, it's like, oh, this is just like a million other books out there. There's nothing unique about it.
Oh, wow.
And
That's I mean, but that's a you put all that work into it to pull it. That takes a strong, sense of integrity on that, I think. I think that's very admirable to
yeah,
pull it.
yeah, and because it's like I think about it, it's like if I'm gonna pay my money for a book, I want something worth spending that money on. And that's how I feel. And so it's like I want to give my readers something worth spending their money on because they work hard for their money. And it's like that the fact that I feel honored that they choose to spend their hard-earned money on something I produce. So I want to make sure they get the best that I have. And it's like especially this last year, I just don't think I had the focus to give the best that I could. So
No,
it's
that
like,
it makes perfect sense. I just think it's really admirable that you did that because you could have just been like, nope, I'm putting out a book. Here's a book. I think there's sometimes we've all had this where we have a series or something we're reading and you could tell the writer phoned it in. Like,
mhm.
they didn't put either they didn't want to write it anymore. I don't know if they were having a bad time, whatever going on in their life, but the next book and you're kind of like, meh, this is not great. And you can lose an audience doing that too, because, that happens maybe one time you might be okay, but it happens more than once. You're definitely going to lose that audience if they,
Yeah.
point are spending their hard earned money. Are you 100% self published?
Yes.
Okay. What made you decide to not query and do that whole thing?
Too much work.
There are a lot of people that would say what you did is too much work. So what made you decide to self-publish though? Like what made you go, I can do this? Because there's a lot to it. People don't realize it's not just like, you're mystically creating everything yourself. So what made you decide to go that way?
Honestly, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So I'm just like, I was like winging it. And then I met up with another author, Sharon Allen, and she had invited me to be part of her group. And I just learned so much from her. And is she I learned the ins and out of self-publishing because like you said, it's not that you just have to put the book up there and say, hey, buy me, buy me, buy me. You have to put in the work for the marketing and all that. And so I learned how to do Facebook marketing, Amazon marketing, and those Google ads and all that stuff to get it out there to the people. And I and plus I wanted 100% control over my books because it's like this is me, nobody else.
No, it makes sense. Do you have audiobooks? Did you
No.
open that arena yet?
No, I haven't gone to that yet. It's like and I don't know if I ever actually will get to audiobooks because personally I don't like audiobooks myself. I like to read
I was
it.
about to say that.
Oh, sorry. Um,
No, I mean, a, a lot of people use audio. Like I even use audiobooks when I'm driving. Jen, audiobooks, podcasts. People should listen to Drinking with Authors while driving, for instance, hypothetically. But I find it's easier when driving. But what's interesting is I look at it and I go, we're not commuting anymore. I had a lot of listeners who said, yeah, I used to listen to you all the time on my way home from work. It would make me relax, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, you still have your phone and headphones. So go for a walk at the end of your day and listen to the podcast or listen to it while you're doing dishes and stuff like that. The one thing about audiobooks I will say is you can multitask. Like if you have a mundane task you have to do, kind of like listening to music, you can listen to audiobooks. But that's an arena in and of itself on how to do it, because Amazon with ACX kind of tried to corner the market on how you get it done.
uh-huh.
It's very much like self-publishing. You have to learn all the ins and outs of doing it,
Yeah, and it's like I didn't feel I had the time right now to learn how to do audiobooks. And because you have to find the right person to read your book, and then it's like there's just no.
It is a tremendous amount of work. I agree with you 1000%. So let's talk a little bit. So you write 5 million words first thing in the morning and generate a book a day. That's really what I heard earlier. I don't know if that's what you said, but that's what I heard. So let's talk a little bit about your process. Do you plot out your book? So you get an idea of what happens. Like you're sitting there, you're people watching, you're looking at weird Facebook ads. I'm not even going to ask why that popped up as an ad option for you, because we know they're all spying on you. So we're going to let that go. But what were you searching that popped up that ad? But how does it start? So let's talk about your process.
I used to be a pantser, a really bad pantser, and then I would get stuck and I'd be like, eh. So I'm more of a hybrid. I'm outlining, and I actually just finished reading a book that says right from the middle. That's is right from the middle, and I'm like, this concept could actually work for me. And so I'm going to try that for my next book and see how that one turns out. But when I outline, I get stuck in the outline because it's like, if I want to do it, I want to do it from beginning to end, and I can't because sometimes I hit the middle idea and I have to go outway.
Well, I think a lot of people do that with outlining. I think outlining for some people, like, we've had writers, Jeff Strand is one of my favorites. He will outline and then perfectly methodically write that book to the outline. Like he plots it, he writes it exactly, but I always joke that he's a method author. Like he's very like into it and he just does it. The characters don't get to guide him anywhere. He's like, I am the boss of you and you're going to do what I say. But the majority of people I know that do outlining and consider themselves a little bit of a plantser, meaning they're not writing a whole ridiculous, 50,000 word outline to write their 75,000 word story, which I still don't ever understand. But a lot of people just use the outline and it does go left. Sometimes it might come back and then maybe it goes, the other direction, and then it gets hazy in the middle. But as long as you have the method, I don't think you have to follow the outline. I think a lot of people don't. I think they just use it to when it's good for them. And then if they get stuck after they've gone left, they can go back and go, oh, what are the other things I wanted to add into the book? But most people I know the outline is nothing like what the book is when they're done.
Yeah, and that's it. Sometimes my characters just run off and I just have to chase them down and say, what are we doing, y'all? It's like, help a homie out here. It's like, so I I don't know. Sometimes, and it's like sometimes, it's like you said, I observe what's going on in around my world, and I'm like, okay, so what if they did this instead of this? Then this would lead to this, and 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 boom, we got us a story. So
Do you have a list of story ideas?
Oh, I have one notebook full of them.
And then the 7 books that you haven't published yet, are they in the story graveyard? Are they soon coming? Do they need to be tweaked? Do they need to be tossed? Like where are we at here?
Well, they were like stories that I had written for an anthology that I want to go back and fill in more of the blanks. And so um one of them I was just thinking of putting out with, Amazon Vella, but Amazon is like I don't like to get caught up in completely Amazon. I like to be wide. And so anything that says it's exclusive to Amazon lately has been making my head itch.
No, we're firm believers in not doing that. The only thing I ever recommend putting up on just Amazon only is if you have a really short little story that you want to almost basically give away like 99 cents. It's an intro story into your work and stuff. Throw it
Mhm.
up on Kindle Unlimited. But I think, especially the way publishing's going and more stuff. Like I was reading an article today where there's some legislature. I don't know that it's going to go anywhere, but they want to take apart the monopolies that Amazon and stuff like that are.
And
Now,
see, that's what I was believing, and that's why I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket. And so I've always been wide from the beginning, except for like my inappropriate date agency. That's in Amazon Unlimited. That's in Kindle Unlimited. But everything else is wide because I'm like, they're Amazon's about to go the way of Ma Bell. And it's
oh my
like,
goodness.
you know,
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. So, when you're sitting down, what do you, so did you hire editors? What is your process? So take us through. You've written the book.
yeah, and then I send it off to my editor. And then I explain all the things she doesn't understand because she's like 12 years old. Uh, and so she doesn't get some of the slang that I use because I'm like, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and she's highly educated. She's in the military, and I'm just like, but some of the things she's like, what does this mean? And I'm like, oh, you are such a baby. But yeah, and then
Yeah, I was gonna say, why don't you Google it before you reach out to you and ask?
well, and so I send it to her, and she sends it back to me with all her little notes and stuff. And then when I get it back from her with all her little notes, then that version I have to send to my sister-in-law, because then my sister-in-law will read through it and she'll be like, no, she crazy, leave that alone, leave that alone. And so it's a battle between the editor and the sister-in-law to see who wins.
That is awesome. At least you're not in the middle of that cage match.
No, and then between the two of them, I fix it and then I send it back to her and she reads it again. And then it's like when she gives it the okay, off it goes to be published. And then I get my lovely little ARC readers to read it and give me feedback and all that stuff. And we have fun.
It
And
sounds like you have fun. Do you have a really good street team, do you feel like?
yeah, they're dedicated and they have no problem telling me that what I write is shit. It is like, and that's what I want. I want honesty from them.
Oh
And
no, if you're going to be in a street team, if you're a reader out there and you want to be in a street team, authors are always looking for street team. But make sure you're in a street team for an author that writes what you like to read, that you've read a lot of that particular genre that's available. Not all of it's available, but available. And then be honest. The author, we get tons of people that tell us we're awesome. We also get some people that tell us we're not awesome, but both ends of that spectrum can be completely useless.
yeah,
Stroking or deflating the ego, because
I don't read this genre, so I'm gonna give this a 2-star. Why are you here?
oh, the ones that always get me is the when authors put warnings on their blurb and stuff, and so they warn you ahead of time that this is going to take place, but then the review comes and it's like, "Ugh, I can't believe that happened. Oh my god, she needs to go to hell for that." It's like, bitch, why you read it? See, look, the alcohol's kicking in.
No, I think it's brilliant. I mean, it's true. And I think that if you're looking at reviews for books, you got to completely ignore the reviews for the book where the person doesn't like the genre or something. Like, I
Mhm.
don't care how many stars they give, but it's when you give low stars to something, be constructive and have it be because the writing is, you feel actually bad because you can spot grammar mistakes and stuff like that. That's great. But anyway, reviewers, they annoy the shit out of me when they're not useful because cool, you think my book's great, but what was great? So when I write the sequel, I know what to put in the sequel because you tell me what you thought was great about it.
Yeah, and if you hate something, tell me what you hate. Not just I hate it because I don't like this genre. It's like, then why'd you read it?
Cool. So not changing the story at all for you. Thank you. So you write interracial.
Yes,
What made you decide to write interracial?
because that's what I know. Because I'm married to the whitest white guy there is.
Well, and I think that's awesome. I know we got to contact you through the interracial conference that occurred. Kasana and all of her glory and awesomeness. I love her to death. She's been on the podcast.
Uh-huh.
And when you started 4 years ago, so you weren't quite when it was still considered like erotica stuff when you had interracial, which I think is hysterical to me that anyone would ever that's an erotica category.
I don't get it. I don't get it. But yeah. So no, it's like when I think it was pretty well established as this own thing when I started writing it. And it's like, but this I read a variety of things, but I find I get pissed off when I start reading, especially if I'm reading a series of things like they have like 20 books in the series, and it's like everybody is white in the series. I'm like, can we have some Hispanic people? Can we get some Asian people? Can we get some Black people? Can we get a variety? Because it's like, I'm sorry, there's a whole slew of people out there.
You kind of wonder where they set the stage for that there isn't anybody else. You just go, the entire town, fine, we got it. Your main characters are white, cool. So this entire town, which you're saying is New York City, has no other races in it.
Yes. Yes, that's it. And it's like, even in Colorado, because we have 5 military bases around where I live, you see a variety of people. It's like, so it's not just homogeneous, it's a hodgepodge of people. And that's what the world's about. And that's what I think people like to read about. Well, people who like to get out of their comfort zones.
Well, I think, I was talking about this a little bit actually with Kasana when I was talking to her, because one of the things I think that people underestimate, there was this really good statistic thing that came out recently about how many readers and what the readers are. And I think part of the problem is it's happening, and I want it to happen more. I'm a firm believer. We run a publication company, and the whole publication company is around own voice, is that we have to publicize it more because people don't necessarily know it's out there. Right.
Yeah.
So when you go, 60% of the readership is white women, for instance, in the romance genre, right? That's because, and it's not that white women don't want to read these books. It's like getting it out there and going, hi, this book exists. And we see that because, for instance, we publish a lot of male erotica written by men, not women, which is like a whole thing there. I mean, don't get me wrong, but if you look up most male erotica, it's written by white women. And I'm like, that's fascinating. But you put it out there, and you do a little publication, a publicity around it, and it's at the #1 on Amazon. You know what I mean? And you go, that's because there's not enough of it out there, and not enough of it's being talked about.
And then you think about it, it's like, how is it different when it's written by white women as opposed by a male who may have experienced what we're writing?
Exactly. And it's interesting. Some people do it very, very well. Don't get me wrong. Jen writes about vampires and werewolves and stuff like that. And Jen
Woohoo!
most likely was not a werewolf, but she is a vampire. She's actually legitimately allergic to sun, so she can talk about the vampire part of it. She doesn't drink blood though, so she's kind of a boring vampire. But
Allergic to
but I go, we can write about these. You absolutely can write about these things, but at the same time, I'm a firm believer in do the right research, do the right justice to the story, so that when you're writing it, you make sure you know the other person's perspective that you're writing from.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's it. And it's like you have to do your research. You just can't say, oh, well, this is how my life would go. But it's like, is it the person that the ethnic person you're writing about, is that truly how it would go in their life? And,
Exactly.
you know,
Asking the question so that you're not saying something that is just like, what? Like, that wouldn't ever happen. Why? Kind of like being a new job and then 4 days later you
I'm like, ugh, what? I'm like, thanks guys for coming up with the pandemic just to welcome me aboard. I love ya.
Yeah, no, it's I work in HR, and that whole pandemic thing, like we did pandemic planning, we did pandemic disaster planning, but it was always, I hate to now saying it sounds horrible, but it was kind of a joke. Like
Uh-huh.
like the thought of a pandemic ever coming through, you're like, okay, well, we'll do, check this box, this is what we do. Ha ha ha. What the
we have to use this book now? Oh.
No, there was no using the book. The book was useless when it came to that. I was like, this is what we're gonna do. Everybody go the fuck home. Just everybody take your computer, go the fuck home. That's what we're gonna do.
And the thing that always pissed me off is that the people were making policies, they were sitting at home. They would have these Zoom meetings like this. They'd be sitting at home in their fuzzy slippers, yelling at the dog, while we're in there at the facility taking care of these people. And like, well, we want you to make sure that you are checking everybody's temperature on the hour. I was like, you know how many temperatures it is? Stop making policies for that you are not going to do. It's like,
No, I it's interesting. I always tell people when they come into an especially executive role, I always tell them, go sit with everybody that works in your downline. I don't care. Go sit with every job that's in your downline so you understand what it takes to do the job. I don't expect you to do the job, but go sit there for a little while and understand what it takes, especially further down the downline, to understand what they're going through before you come up with some ridiculous idea that's just going to break everything because you think you know better than the person actually doing the job, which, by the way, nobody ever does know better than the person who's actually doing the job.
yeah.
You can have bright ideas to help because you can see it from a different angle, but you're never going to know more than the person doing the job. I can tell you this right now. If we were all three put in McDonald's right now and they're like, you need to do the McDonald's stuff, we would be fucked. Like, we could make up stuff, but we'd have no idea where anything is, how they do it, how the machines work. We're smart women. We could figure some stuff out, but let me just tell you, there would be no orders in 5 minutes or less being handed to anybody.
No, they'd get a slice of pizza because that's what I did. I called out for pizza.
Yeah, we'll be like, you can have pepperoni or a Supreme from Domino's. That's what we figured out. We do know how to make the soda machine work, mostly. You can have Diet Coke. We've got that one working. And we figured out the apple pies that were already cooked. So we have those.
But anything else, your SOL.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so what is the latest book that came out for you? I'm sure not the one that you put out and then pulled back. What is the newest book that has come out?
The latest book I actually put out was In the Nick of Time, and that was around Christmas, and Must Love Candy Cane. Those two were Christmas novels that I did with my friend Siren Allen. It was part of a very alpha Christmas romance series. So yeah, I'm bad. I haven't done anything this year.
Yeah, it's June.
Yeah. And that's actually part of my writing cycle. I find that from January to June, I don't do crap but from July to December, I am churning out things. And I don't, and see, that's just it. I was just talking to my cover artist and I'm like, hey, look, I need this cover, I need this cover, I need this cover because I'm going to put out this story, this story, this story. And she's like, you so psycho. And I'm like, yeah, that's me.
So what is the next thing coming out?
The next thing that is coming out is actually, is called Wolf's Dagger.
Okay.
It's part of a happily ever after paranormal romance, and it's about this guy. He's a wolf shifter. He was pledged to marry this chick very young, and he wants out of it, and so he's going to her hometown to negotiate with her to get out of this this arranged mating. Little does he know that she wants out of the arranged mating herself and has been moonlighting as a burlesque dancer to earn extra money to pay back the bridal fee that her family had to pay. And so he rolls into town thinking he's God gifts to wolves, and she's like, I can do better.
I love it. So when is that expected out?
The hell if I know.
That's not the right answer to that question.
I'm hoping to have it out by August, honestly.
I was going to say, because this is going to air before August and your fans are going to listen to it and go, what did she say? What just came out of her mouth? Did she say it's not coming? She doesn't know when it's coming. Angry emails. There's going to be some tweets. You don't know. We could literally cause chaos.
Oh, yes, chaos. I'm all about chaos. Woo! No, I also I have a book coming out as part of an anthology. It's called the anthology is called Fighting Temptation, and the book that's going in that one is called Sweet Revenge.
Very cool. Very cool.
And this is where the alcohol comes out, because there's a strawberry bourbon called Sweet Revenge.
Ooh.
It is delicious.
I'll have to try that. I've never tried a flavored bourbon now that I think about it. I mean,
Yes.
smoke flavored and stuff, but not as I'm staring at all my liquor on my, it's ridiculous. You do a podcast called Drinking with Authors, and everybody's resort is like, oh, she needs more booze. And don't get me wrong, if you want to send me booze, that's fine. But it's funny because I have a lot of booze.
Me too. My daughter found a bottle of wine last night and she's like, where did this come from? I'm like, the fridge? She's like, yeah, that's not what I was asking.
Well, then you should have been more specific.
Yeah. So like I said, Sweet Revenge is gonna it's due out in September as part of the Fighting Temptation anthology. And this one is all about a chick who is dumped, because it happens.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Yeah, she was dumped, and it's an interracial one. So she was dumped because she was a bigger, curvy girl, and her fiance was told that if he wanted to go anywhere in life, that he needed to get a more acceptable partner than she was.
Oh, not good. Not good.
He died.
So,
Does he die?
no, he doesn't die. He doesn't. But in this story, he ended up getting divorced from the acceptable partner, and so they go to this bar called Sweet Revenge, and where they throw divorce parties, celebrating your divorce, and that's where his brothers and friends take him. And it turns out that she owns the bar, and things just go sideways from there.
That sounds amazing. Okay, we are coming near the end of the podcast, so I have to ask you, what advice do you have for writers out there?
Write. Just write. It's like, even if you think it's crap, just keep writing. And don't read reviews. Those things are harsh, and they're usually written about people who have sad moments in life and just want to bring you down.
This is very true. Reviews are not helpful. That's what a street team and stuff like that. Listen to the people who really enjoy your writing. because those are the ones paying for it. So
Yeah.
I always think when I see a bad review, I'm like, thank you for buying my book.
Mm-hmm.
That's thank you for spending money on that. I appreciate it. Okay, so how do fans find you, my friend? Where should they look to contact you?
I am on Facebook. It's like I have a homepage, Donna R. Mercer. I have a Facebook group called Risque Raiders, and all we do is stare at half naked men. So hey, that's always fun.
There you go.
I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. Heck, I got a mailing list too. So
Oh, newsletter.
Yep. So it's like, and then if you sign up for my newsletter, you also get a lovely free book called Watermelon Spice.
Ooh.
It's so sweet. I can't believe I actually wrote it. I'm like, oh.
Well, that's okay. As long as you killed the ghostwriter, so they'll never speak up, you're fine.
It's like, now that bitch is haunting me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Donna, you've been amazing. Thank you so much for being on the podcast with us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Okay, so this has been Drinking with Authors. I have been your host, Erica Lance.
J.M.
And our guest has been Donna R. Mercer, and we will see you next time.
Woohoo!